right, how we doing, everyone? Stevie Nicks here with cousin D, aka Dylan, and you good? Are you good now? Are you good? Are you good to go?
I'm good.
You
Yeah.
good? You're good. All right, we had a false start because he was like, Hold on a minute, wait a minute." So so yeah, so I
Smooth sailing.
it's been a while since we've done one of these.
Yeah, it has. I think
So
pre.
did you say pre-COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I can't even believe that. Um, why don't you tell everyone what you've been, doing, what you've been up to, since we last spoke, since it's been some time.
Let's do a little recap.
Yeah.
I've been around, and I missed all of you, and I missed you, Steve, and doing the podcast. It's always a great time. I appreciate you. So since COVID, I have moved from Massapequa, New York, Long Island, to Manhattan. I was there for a year in the Lower East Side. A lot of good stories, a lot of great food. Then from there, I moved to Falls Church, Virginia. So I'm in Virginia now, Steve, a new state, and about 20 minutes outside of D.C. It's it's really not that different from Long Island. I wish it was more exciting. I'm not gonna lie, but it's very similar suburbs and the weather. Anytime anyone asks me, "What's the weather like?" I check my phone, my Apple phone. I'm sure you check your weather that way too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know that you can have multiple cities on there. You just kind of flick left to right. You can
Yeah.
scroll like New York. It's always within 1 or 2 degrees of Long Island. Whether it's
Hmm.
hotter or colder, it changes. But it's so similar weather, suburbs, the towns and whatnot. So it's really not that big of a change, despite it being 300 miles away.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was it's been an adjustment without having you, nearby. And I'm sure it's an adjustment for you too. But we're managing. We're gonna see each other real soon. And so I guess like there's a bunch. What did you want? There's a bunch of things we could talk about. Like apparently. So all right. I'll start off with this since we were already talking about this the other night. So I talked to Mike Larkin actually very recently since we last spoke. And he's saying now that the Saudi Arabia thing with WWE is a rumor for now. He's saying it's a rumor. He's saying the guy who broke it is not reliable and it's been debunked. So he says it's a rumor for now, but here's the other thing: it could still happen. It's not exactly out of the realm of possibilities either.
Yeah, and it's exciting, right? And it's getting viewership and it's getting talked about. It had a pretty good news cycle, and that's good for wrestling as a whole. I have two theories on this, Steve, and hear me out here, bud.
Mm-hmm.
The first is by having a rumor leaked that it is for sale, in fact, it's a really good, honest way, maybe not the word honest, but it's a really good, accurate way to measure the value of the product and brand. How much could he sell it for? Because people are going to come with him, with, I'm sure, an array of different offers, especially if we're talking about the Saudis. Um, they spend a lot of money on that pay-per-view they've had the past bunch of years over there. So it's a good way for Vince to say, how much is this worth if I am going to sell it one day, which these rumors have been going on for years, by the way. I'm sure you and Mike know.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to gauge exactly how much it's worth.
Oh,
Another
absolutely.
is, why would Stephanie McMahon leave? She left the company this week. So that's why I think they are gearing up for a sale. And, I don't know if the writing is on the wall with what happened with Vince. And, I don't want to say Me Too, but there were some scandalous things that came out, some negative press. He was forced to take a step back. What a tongue twister. So it's weird, for him to come back, for Stephanie to sit down in the midst of all these rumors. Something's going on, Steve. What do you think?
I think that you're definitely right. I think something definitely is going on behind the scenes. Um, I don't know what it is. I don't know enough to even speculate as to what could. It does seem though that the you know there seems like there's going to be a divorce here soon between the McMahons and WWE. Just
I don't think.
because, like you said, it does look like the writing is on the wall. So I do think that there is. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Mike Larkin said. He thinks Disney.
I've heard about Disney. Yeah, I've heard that Disney was in the mix, and that's scary. That's a dark road because
Darker than the Saudis.
yeah, I mean that's a good point. More so for the product because the Saudis love wrestling, right? That's why they're spending the money on the pay-per-view. That's why the rumors around them are believable. But with Disney, they don't have, at least to my knowledge, any ties with wrestling ever, right? So what are they going to do? Is it going to be just like Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, SmackDown? Like I don't know. I can't see the product getting better with Disney. I can only see it getting worse. And while I don't have confidence that the Saudis could make it a better product, I don't think that it would get significantly worse. I think they would try to honor the product and keep it similar to what they love. I can see Disney getting their hands on it and really trying to morph it into something it isn't.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, on the one hand, you've got the Saudis and their values, and then you have Disney and their values, and it's like, what's gonna happen with some of these storylines that because under the McMahons, there are the storylines, especially when you go into like Attitude Era stuff and things like that, tended to be a little bit nuts and a little bit risque, and you wonder
Sure.
what direction, how it's going to affect the overall products as far as who's running it, because obviously we talked about this before. Everybody has an agenda, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So depending on who buys it, the product is probably going to reflect their agenda now. So that's really going to be interesting. If it ends up being the Saudis, that's going to be really interesting. I think more Disney is interesting, more from a philosophical standpoint. But from a pure like juxtaposition of like Western values and Eastern values and the different cultures and things like that. It's that from a more cultural perspective that's more interesting. But either way, I think you're gonna see a divorce, and you're gonna see something about the product change depending on whoever buys it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's well said, Steve. And talking about values, in today's age, and rightfully so, the wrestling community, whether it's AEW or WWE, the women's divisions are top dog, right? The women's division is not to disrespect the divas of the past, but in the past, a lot of the draw was for, a Tori Wilson bra and panty match. Now, the women's Royal Rumble has been the better Royal Rumble for the past 3 years, in my opinion. And the matches and the divas and superstars are phenomenal. The talent level is there, and I think that the Saudis might mismanage that in conjunction with the LGBT community and the following in wrestling that they've had for a long time, and that it is building, right? When it comes to Disney, what's odd to me is that the WWE recently, within the last 12 months, went on record saying, "Hey, the PG era is over. Right? We're done with the PG era. We kind of tried to over appeal to kids, and we're losing viewership, and the product isn't as good." So how can you claim that we're moving on from the PG era and then get bought out by Disney? Right? It's one step forward, two steps back. And I think what's interesting about both options is that they don't have that hunger in them, that dog, right? Because if Disney buys the WWE and it fails, will Disney fail? Absolutely not, right? And if Saudi money and investors buy a product and it fails, are they going to go broke? Right? So
No.
it's frustrating because part of the WWE that made it so great is that it really was passion based passion turned to profit, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is part of the appeal for it, right? They started off in small towns doing circuits, and it grew into a couple companies, and WWE rose to the top. For whatever reason, I can't pinpoint it. They did a lot of things right. Recently they've done a lot of wrong, but I want to see those recent wrongs righted. What a sentence. Jesus, say that. But I think my point, hopefully came across to the viewers, and I'm excited. I heard a rumor, Steve, by the way, to kind of feed off of this. The Khans are apparently in the mix for buying WWE. Now, Shad Khan,
Really?
the father, is the owner of the Jaguars, amongst other things, very successful businessman. His son, Tony, owns and runs AEW, the competitor to WWE. What do you think?
Wow. That's very. I mean, well, does that become a monopoly now? If that happens?
Uh, I don't think like a monopoly law would come into play because there's so much indie wrestling, and there still is other wrestling things like MLW, Major League Wrestling. They have a good following online and YouTube. I find their product very interesting. It's in Texas, so they have a little bit more lucha in there, the luchadors. But yeah, I don't think they could get hit with a monopoly, type of lawsuit or any what's the word I'm looking for? Backlash from that.
Yeah.
I think they could maybe. This is what me and John were talking about the other day. Shout out John if you're listening, my friend.
Yeah. Shout out, John.
Do you remember the big emphasis on SmackDown and Raw, SmackDown versus Raw, the brands?
Yep.
They still do the drafts, but back then, they would go on other shows, and sometimes you tune into a Friday night SmackDown, and boom, a couple fellas from Raw come in and mix it up, and the pay-per-views you had where it was SmackDown versus Raw. Forgive me, it's escaping me. Those had a little extra oomph to it, a little extra watching power, because you could tell that the brand split was real.
Yeah.
Like at AEW, not AEW, excuse me, ECW, the renewal of ECW at Hamster Ballroom in New York. They had that scene with JBL, that iconic. He was drunk and he was going off and talking smack about Raw. And it was just iconic, man. And I think it'd be cool if he did that, a draft. Ran both shows, did an AEW draft and a WWE draft. That'd be really cool, I think. And that's when the fans win, if something like that was to happen, not just these corporations.
Yeah, I think it would be cool. Were you talking about Royal Rumble before?
I was, yeah, the Royal Rumble's coming up, dude.
There you go. There you go. I knew what you were talking about.
I love the Royal Rumble. It's a very unique pay-per-view. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the ones that like I kind of like pay attention to a little bit just because it's so unique. It's like the most.
You're guaranteed a few callbacks,
Yeah.
right? A few legends are going to come out for an entrance in WWE. I remember a couple years back, Edge returned, and what a pop he got. He came back to the Brood entrance, and I went nuts. I'm not going to lie. I'm almost 30, and I went absolutely insane that a guy I grew up with and idolized, came back for a Royal Rumble. Now he's around, so it's great, a lot of fun. My favorite pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cool. Just the stuff that can happen, and everybody everybody puts like bets on who they think is gonna win, right? And everybody like gets really super into it. It's really one of the most one of the more engaging I think like pay-per-views that they have.
You're guaranteed a few great spots, right? You have your Kofi Kingstons or your Rey Mysterios who do the high-flying stuff. Kofi jumps on the announcer table and jumps back in the ring. You're guaranteed one or few great spots like that. Just true human athleticism. You're guaranteed the callbacks like we said earlier. And even the entrances, when that clock is ticking, you got 6 or 7 guys in the ring going at it. 5, 4, 3, boom. When the song hits, it's a great way to kill 2-3 hours of watching the Royal Rumble, honestly. Worth the money.
Absolutely.
It's a nostalgia bomb. It is. Yeah, I love it, dude. I'm going to tune in this year.
It really is a fun event. I think that and the steel cage matches I think are the most fun.
Yeah. Love a Hell in a Cell. Love the Elimination Chamber.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, I'll tell you, we're definitely going to keep an eye on this this Saudi and this WWE sales situation because obviously this is very interesting and it has a lot of ramifications, not just for wrestling, but I think for the entertainment world and maybe even some of the sports world. And We'll definitely see.
Look at Live Golf or Live Golf.
I was just gonna say, we have another one of those situations coming on. I think now we could anyway.
Money talks, and that Saudi money is real deep.
Oh yeah.
When you hear about it, gets brought up every time they talk about like richest man in the world this year. They're not claiming how much they owe, right? So apparently they're, I don't want to over exaggerate here, but ridiculously more, right? Like let's say 100 billion. They're out there like 300 billion. I don't know if these numbers are accurate. They're definitely not. In fact, I'm just shooting from the hip. But apparently it's like insane amounts of money. Like we couldn't even fathom it. So when you have that kind of power, you could get anything you want, right?
Yeah.
In terms of entertainment, you just pay the price.
Yeah, I mean it's insane the type of wealth that they have. And it's like it's for the rest of the world, like their standards are very very different for what's considered wealthy than us. It's just insane.
It's tough because I know a lot of people felt the type of way when certain golfers signed to live or live. I'm gonna say it wrong the whole podcast, so fuck it. Unless you know.
I know what you're talking about, so it's all right.
But like how could he do that, right? Like Mark Norman, the shark. How could he do that? How could he do it? Mark Norman's a degenerate gambler. Like, of course he took money from the Saudi Arabians to play and from and I don't fault him for it to an extent because if you're providing a service and you're playing golf and one employer is gonna go ahead and pay you 15 times more than the other, like who am I to say shame on you for taking that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's economics, It's definitely it's free world economics because you can go to the highest bid, whoever values your services the most is where you can go, and you have a right to make however much money you can,
I'm
and
sure Russian hockey players and Russian hockey fans want their best stars to remain in Russia, right? But the fact of the matter is they come to the NHL because of the fame and the pay. It's superior.
Absolutely, and they love the American system. For a lot of them, is a lot less oppressive for them than the Russian system is, and you can't exactly, be wealthy and be in Russia without the government being all up in your grill and you having because really they don't really want you to have too much money, right? So they rather come here.
Maybe that draw, especially with like female superstars and divas. Like, yeah, we'll pay you more, but like, will your quality of life be better over here?
I mean, for it it also depends on the person too. I mean, you also have to remember that they have European values. They have different values than us too, but at the same time, but it's the same. I think people are going to take the best opportunity no matter what that is, and that's kind of what I think that's what we're both trying to get at here. I think, right? I mean, that's
we're trying. What is the best opportunity? And I guess it's different for everyone, right? Is it the most amount of money? Is it following a legacy, right? Like when players take pay cuts to play with teams they loved as kids, right? Is that the right thing? Is the money the right thing? There's a lot of reasons that it's tough to choose Live or PGA, right? And if Saudi by WWE or AEW, it's you got that's going to factor into the decision of the signings of the superstars and athletes.
Yeah, and it really comes down to what are you also willing to give up too. I mean, you're giving up certain things no matter who you sign with, and it depends on your values what you give up. So that also.
If they bought the WWE, the Saudi Arabia investors, it would still remain in America for the most part,
No, I know that, but
But I don't think like John Cena's moving. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no. I know that, but I mean, like it's more having to do with selling your soul, because now it's this is now a foreign interest. Now it's not an American interest necessarily, even though it's going to still be American based. It's not exactly it's not American owned anymore. So I think people also have to go with their conscience depending on what they value and what's best for them. And that's what it probably will come down to also for a lot of them, not just them. Obviously, money's very important for anyone, but there are a bunch of things that go into it in a situation like this.
Absolutely. I can't wait to stick around and figure out when it happened. And now, like you started off with, oh no, they're just rumors, this and that. If that's the case, I mean, if you're on the WWE roster, you got to feel pretty uncertain about your future.
Yeah.
You might look a little bit better now. You may consider signing them just a touch more than you would have prior to all this talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's so the whole just the possibility of it is so interesting and it's amazing. Like I would always, I would always talk to my client when we would do the Steve and Mike show, especially like in the early days. I'd always tell him like you don't have to feel like you have to shoehorn wrestling in there all the time because you talk about wrestling so much. Like if you want to talk about other stuff, we can talk about other stuff. But like I would always try to steer him away, and then like, something like this happens, and now it's like, oh, I actually want to talk. Because every now and then something will happen where I want to talk to him about it. So this is one where I'm definitely looking forward to talking to Mike Larkin about too. So I'll definitely we'll be following this, and I'll let you know what we come up with too.
Yeah, keep me going. I don't know, an ounce of what Mike Larkin knows when it comes to wrestling. He's like an encyclopedia, and shout out to Mike Larkin Show and his YouTube channel, Mike Larkin. I love his stuff. He reviewed a SmackDown vs. Raw, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain the other day on his YouTube channel, and it was a great video, and I love that game. So, yeah, definitely check him out, everyone. He's great.
Yeah, he is pretty good. Not gonna lie.
Whenever I have a question about wrestling, I text him. And he gets back to me. He's the man. He's so knowledgeable and passionate about it. Talking wrestling with him is a delight. Really is. I'm lucky to have somebody like that.
All right. Don't dick ride him too much. All right. Yeah, don't dick ride him too much. All right. He's gonna get a big head.
Listen, it's the truth. I want to come off like we just talked wrestling for the last 45 minutes. I just want to be clear. If I
22.
I know Mike Larkin. That kid knows way more than I do. That's all I'm trying to get across. I'll blow him later, though. Don't you worry.
I'm not saying anything.
Like Triple H did the old water spit when he got in the ring?
Uh-huh.
Me with Mike later.
Oh, my God. He might be into that, too. He might be like, yeah, hell yeah.
You tied in a wrestling reference. I'm in.
I'm just so happy someone talked about me. Oh, good. But I have to talk to him about this on the. Listen, check the next episode of the Steve and Mike show for more updates on this. As if you're only getting it from us and not anyone else, but still. So do you remember how we were talking about a couple days ago? We were talking about Ohio.
Yes.
And it's so crazy because I not long after that I come across this story about a guy in Ohio was stopped at a traffic stop, and he had, I think it was an ounce of cannabis on him, and it's not legal there commercially yet. And it's medical is very, very, like they're very, but we talked about this. Ohio is very behind the times. States like Ohio and like these middle of the road, dead end nowhere, Midwestern, Mideastern, whatever states. They're very behind the times, and things like, well, I'll tell you what, sports gambling is not going to be legal there till like. I think it just became legal there this week, actually. In Ohio. Like, this is the type of state that we're talking about. So, this guy almost died because he was afraid of going to jail for a marijuana charge. and the officer actually had to like give him like the Heimlich. The officer I think actually ended up saving his life because they give him like the Heimlich maneuver and like get it was like he had he had a bag and like swallowed the bag and like was like
Oh, okay.
choking to
Yeah,
death.
if they lessen the laws, he would have never taken the risk and put his life in harm's way for something as silly as less than an ounce of weed. You know?
I mean, it's so we've talked about this stuff before, and like it should be a slam dunk at this point. Legalization, at least on the state level, like I think we are gonna get to that point on a national level at some point, but I think it would have to get to a point where it would actually be detrimental to a politician. Like they would lose points in the polls to come out against legalization and come out against cannabis and cannabis reform and things like that. But on the state level, like we've said this before, it's easy money, right? Gambling, sports gambling, and cannabis. That's easy money.
Yeah, the benefits right here, right now, right, are significantly outweighing the quote-unquote negative aspects of it, right? One, taxpayers and tax dollars are going up due to the sale legally of marijuana, right? That's going to be helpful. Same thing with sports gambling. But now the matter of these taxes being mismanaged by the government is a completely different topic that I'm not going to get into. But just more taxes, you would think that they would be on board with that at the very least, right? Now the research, this isn't 1957, right? The research now on weed, both medically, physically, and emotionally, are in the favor of, it should be readily available for those who need it. And if you want to make a choice to do it, it's certainly less, in my opinion, harmful than something like alcohol, right? So just at this moment in time, right here, right now, why not? Yeah, you really can you struggle to make an argument that, hey, we shouldn't legalize it. We shouldn't have it recreational. We shouldn't decriminalize it because of these factors. I just don't see anyone coming up with an argument strong enough for me to change my opinion on that. But I'm open to it if someone had one.
I mean, that's well said, my friend. Like you hit the nail right on the head. Like you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. I don't understand why like there I think the one of the reasons there's still so much pushback against this still is the one of the last holdouts obviously is the pharmaceutical industry because that poses a threat to them. So they're probably the last ones, like the last line of defense that's still lobbying and coming out against this because it's not only is it safer than alcohol, it's safer than a lot of over-the-counter medications too.
Oh, for sure. And NFL players, I'll send you the video later on, and I'm sorry, listeners, maybe we can link it in the bottom, but I think it might be with Vice, I'm not positive, but there is a little podcast show where they have on a bunch of NFL players. And a lot of these guys, all of these guys, in fact, the reason they're on is they were talking about weed. And every single one of them at one point said, yeah, the reason I was smoking weed was like, yes, I loved it. Being high is fun, obviously. But when the choice is getting a shot of, Steve, you'll probably know the chemical, I'm going to say it wrong, Triadol or Trinidol. Athletes use baseball players, football players. It's just, like a painkiller and it decreases swelling. Or taking opioids in the form of pills just didn't seem like the best option in their opinion. So they chose to smoke weed and were often punished for it. Just the argument that, like, here, let me inject you.
Cortisone shot are you talking about?
Yeah, it's cortisone, but there was something else they kept talking about. Triadol.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's very similar to cortisone.
Yeah.
But yeah, cortisone and triadol shots or taking opiates is the alternative solution to smoking pot. Like, you might be arguing for the wrong thing, especially when they talk about factors like safety and health. Get the fuck out of here, right? You can't even make that argument when that's the alternative. So something's got to give and catch up with the times, Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, not just Ohio. A lot of these states are still just, really behind it. And, Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why, like, you're talking about these, the athletes and the things that they have to deal with. I mean, like it really helps with like trauma and like even some of the I mean, I don't know. I'm sure the research is there's a lot to be done still, but I'm sure some of the CTE stuff. I'm sure that it helps with some of those symptoms too, right? I mean, it helps with a lot of like brain, changes
Definitely.
in brain chemicals and brain functionality. When there's been any type of physical or mental trauma, especially to the brain, it works very, very well. That, and you know what else I've heard? D? I'm sure you've heard this too. Psychedelics too work really well with that too, right? Like mushroom, I like real like more traditional like mushrooms and like LSD and stuff like that.
Yeah, they say that, and that's also a slippery slope. I want to, the benefits of medicinal marijuana is undeniable, but, some people like to just think it's like, oh, it's a cure-all. Like, it's not. It can
No.
definitely help. It helps a lot of people with a lot of things, but I don't want to overstate the power of it. But, yeah, no, it's helpful to the point where you can't deny it, and this is for you, Ohio.
Yeah, this is yelling at Ohio because they're just they suck, and I couldn't just go there and just be open with my weed. Yeah, it was because that's the thing. I'll tell you, Isaac. I went there, and like if you want to smoke when you're there, like you have to. It's like the old. It really is like the old days there, dude. Because you like have to like hide out and like not be seen and make sure nobody smells it and like you make sure nobody like notices you doing
That was like
anything.
half the fun of smoking pot for me.
What?
But growing up, that was like half the fun
No,
of
I listen. It's
there's
not.
no
It's
sneak factor of it. Like.
when you're a kid and you're or you're younger and you're doing that stuff.
Get away with this.
There's definitely a certain char aura to it. There's definitely an allure, but like I don't really want I don't want any more additional hassle. I just want to get high and not fucking deal with it.
There it is, the smoking gun.
The smoking gun.
I just want to get high. What an argument.
It's nothing like
Be Ohio. I'm just trying to get high.
it's not like that at all. Okay, it's a little bit like that.
Been a long time coming. Steve, who sings that song? I go back to Ohio. It's a girl rock band. That song
The
kicks ass.
Pretenders.
That's a great song. Were they one hit one?
No, absolutely not. They're
Oh,
they're a fantastic band. That was My City Was Gone
oh, okay.
by
I
the
don't know.
Pretenders.
Boy, that's a good one. Ohio sports teams have had a bad run. They need a boost here.
Well, the Cavaliers had LeBron, right? I mean, they weren't all that bad.
No, good point. That was most of the Browns.
The Browns and the Indians, or well, I'm sorry, what are they? The Guardians.
The Guardians.
The Guardians now. They're the Cleveland Guardians. They're not the Indians anymore.
Oh. How are they doing?
I mean, they're okay. They don't. What do you think of that? What do you think of the? It's a little bit old now, but now it's like kind of like set in now that they've actually changed the names. There's the controversy with the Redskins and the Indians and all that stuff.
Like the Commanders and the
Yeah,
Guardians?
yeah, like the changing of the names and the controversy over all that stuff.
If people were that passionate enough about it for them to make the change, I see no difference in it. I think sports teams can evolve and change. Personally, was I offended? No, but then again, I'm not Native American at all, so I could see that if someone was that offended, I wouldn't gatekeep their happiness based off of a mascot's name. Teams can evolve and change all the time, and styles change and logos change and teams grow.
Yeah.
So it's not. It wasn't the end all be all for me. But personally, I was like, keep it. I don't think it's bad. I think it's kind of an homage. I thought it was kind of cool. Like growing up the Redskins. It gave me the impression that Native Americans were tough and strong and had a sense of camaraderie and brotherhood and they played together. I always looked at it in that light. So I was a little taken aback when it first was picking up so much steam. But again, I was like, oh yeah, if you guys are that upset about it, like, go ahead, fuck it.
See, here's my question for you. Here's what I want to know what you think about this. How much of it do you think is actually the Native Americans, and how much of it is it actually, Caucasian people or other people that are trying to protest and virtue signal on their behalf?
Yeah, it's definitely more the latter, of course, as is everything when it comes to woke politics. Right? Rarely is it coming from the said oppressed. It's really just coming from the people, just trying to basically. It's like that Shane Gillis joke where people post stuff on Facebook and basically they might as well copy and paste. Like, I'm not racist. See, look what I posted. Like not on the back. It's just, and I knew that was a big part of it. But I just didn't. I was like, I'm not gonna stand in the way of this. Fuck it. I'm not dying on this hill. It's fine.
Yeah.
Change it. Fuck Cleveland.
I mean, here's. I'll tell you a story. I don't know if did I tell you this story. You tell me if I've already told you about this. But so my alma mater, my high school, they had a situation like this happen with them because our mascot was the Redman. Similar to like Redskin. And then some, actually one of the student from my class, from my graduating class, actually started this petition saying that the name of the logo is racist and it's offensive toward Native Americans and blah, blah, blah. And then, brought all of this nonsense and this woke politics into our town. Now, here's the problem with that. We live in a town and a county that, believe it or not, even though we're in a blue state, is actually tend to be pretty right-leaning. So it wasn't completely.
Most of New York is by county.
What?
Most of New York is by counties. It's
yeah.
Albany and Manhattan. That's
yeah.
Oh
yeah. Oh, I mean, it's yeah. But here's what happened though, when woke politics came to town. It was met with a little bit of backlash because not everyone was exactly well receiving and on board with this. They thought it was ridiculous and a waste of time. And to be honest, this happened during COVID. So I think a lot of it too came out of just boredom and needing something to do while sitting around all day. And a great way to spend time behind a keyboard is, to virtue signal and, form protests and do things like that. Like I said, I knew the person who started that original thing. Me and Mike Larkin, I knew her. Mike Larkin didn't know her, but, I don't know if they'd even met like a Native American,
You know what country is kind of on the right path, or they must be doing something right when people, there's no like wars going on. There's not like really a food shortage or like a massive drought. When people are like, that sports team, that professional sports team's name is upsetting, or this high school basketball team's mascot is really ticking me off. Like, if that's what it is, good on you. Fight that fight if you really want to, and hopefully you win. But
well, I'll tell you what. Here's what happened.
It's not, the quality of your life is probably not that
yeah,
bad.
Yeah. No, exactly. And here's what happened. After, not long after that, they started another page, another protests thing for it to block any type of changes. And there was a little bit of pushback and there was pressure from people who were against that change. Also going, toward the school district. And what they ended up doing was they ended up compromising. What they did was they took down the logo, but they kept the name. which I felt was definitely a good compromise, but also like
Wait, they kept the name, and it's still the name to this day. Because you
it's
were
still the
mentioning that.
name, it's still the name, and which I think is also kind of like a little bit of a slap in the face to the people who kind of started the whole thing in the first place, because I think really it was more about the name than the logo, but they were like, all right, we'll compromise, we'll take away the logo and we'll keep the name.
Yeah, like, what? That,
It's like, so the whole thing ended up really not be coming out the way they thought it would because there was so much pushback in our town from it.
I mean, I guess, without the logo, you could be like, no, 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 it's not Native Americans. He just fucking loves tomatoes. You can't prove that it's about Native Americans. It's just the color red. It could be anything.
It's just, red is a really just great color.
I'm red. That's it.
So many things go with red.
Are they good at sports, your high school?
I have no idea anymore. I don't think I even completely knew even when I went. Because for the most part, for the majority of my high school career, I was not involved in any sports, so I didn't really care.
You love sports, man.
I do love sports. It's not that I don't love sports. It's not. That had
No,
nothing to do with it. It
sports
was.
is kind of tough to root for.
Yeah, it's. I was never a rah rah school spirit guy anyway, so.
Who, you?
Yeah, me. I know, it's a surprise, right? It's so shocking. Um, no, yeah, no, you're a good man, D. Who's a good man, D? Jeez. Um. So. So yeah. Oh. So I know you're not doing Facebook and like the social media stuff anymore. Um. So yeah, that's why I won't ask you if you have to plug anything, because I don't think you have anything to plug anyway, right?
No.
No. I'm just checking. I'm just checking. Um, but I am obviously I
Not that
am.
I'm plugging this. But just to gauge interest, if people would tune in, we're talking about sports here a little bit, so it's not too far of a veer on the segue here, but I love football. I'm watching the game right now as we speak, the playoff game, Bills, Dolphins, and it's actually surprisingly a great game. But anyway, I'm thinking about doing the XFL, USFL Spring Football podcast with some gambling picks. We'll, probably do about a half hour, 45-minute show. Occasionally have some guests on. Steve, I would love for you to be one of them. Jonathan, Mike Larkin, we'll have some football fans on. And we're going to make our picks, and we're going to have fun. We'll do a couple crazy picks an episode, and then the money makers, so our bread and butter. And I'm really excited for the spring football. We have the XFL, the USFL coming up, 2 different leagues. It's going to be good to see them competing for viewerships. I think competition is going to, make both of these companies work that much harder. And I'm just excited for it. So, yeah, I'm thinking about doing that podcast. Let me know any feedback, Steve, that you get from the viewers and listeners of this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I think I'm going to do it. I just want to do it anyway, but I'd love for you to tune in.
listen, you make it happen, and we'll put it on the network. So, if you want to do that, then we'll put it on for you, man.
I appreciate it, man, tremendously. I really do.
Yeah.
You'd be a
No, absolutely, absolutely.
And if the fans aren't into it, man, it's cool. I'll pivot.
No, that's all right. I'm sure Mike Larkin is on board with this too. So I don't think I'm speaking for him or speaking out of turn when I say that. I'm definitely
I was sucking him off earlier, right?
no. Jesus Christ.
I had a plan. From the start.
But it's interesting though, because obviously I am on social media, and I am on Facebook and Instagram. And Dylan, you might find this very interesting. So I've been seeing these. You know about the open web like predictive text stuff they have going on now, where you can like talk.
Sounds interesting though.
There's this, they have this AI stuff where you can like, ask it any question and it'll answer it just like a human. You can have conversations with this thing just like a human. Well, I've been seeing, there are ads now for AI companions. I don't know. So now I don't know why I'm getting these ads. I don't know why I don't even have I don't even letting them target my ads or anything. I don't know how it's finding me. I don't know why, but I do think it's very interesting though because we were touching on it on the podcast, me and Mike Larkin on SNM, our last episode actually about how there's a tremendous amount of loneliness among the young male population, and they're looking for companionship and connection through more and more alternative and simulated means. And this, I mean, is really, it really does seem like we're like heading into like an ex machina type of a situation. You know that movie, right?
I don't.
You don't know Ex Machina?
No, I don't.
Dylan. Okay. First of all, great movie. Definitely watch it. I could have sworn I watched it at your house the first time.
Really?
I don't know why. I'm remembering watching it in the family room.
I mean, listen, it's very possible. We hung out a lot growing up, so without a doubt.
I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong though. I'm just. But I do remember watching it. You might not have been there. Maybe you weren't even there.
I'm sorry for the background noise. Al's coming home soon, and she wants an espresso martini, so I'm just gonna make her coffee real quick.
Oh boy.
That's right.
No, but because I know I hung out with your brother a lot too, so it's possible that it could have me and him could have watched it.
For sure.
So, but you should definitely if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's great. But yeah, like we're heading. It's a very we were talking about slippery slopes. I mean, this is like because next thing you got real things like real dolls are becoming more like you're gonna be able to like have like a robotic like human like walking around and wouldn't be able to even like know it. That could just be like just messing with people and messing with the human race and messing with emotions. Like it's so crazy, and they're like they're because these software companies and like the computer companies, they're really the only ones that are marketing to a lot of these people, especially this young male demographic, because they're the only ones that are buying things like video games and computer games and things like that. So obviously they're gonna cater more to their audience, right?
How
So
much are they effective?
how much are what? Well, right now they're like what I've seen are like ads for apps on your phone. You like have a companion on the app, but
What?
yeah, yeah, but it's like it talks to you like it's having like a real conversation with you, and like they're like a real person. And what I'm thinking though now is like, eventually like that stuff's not just gonna stay on an app. Eventually they're gonna start incorporating it into like, humanoid, machines. I don't know if you could call them dolls, but
Are you getting one? That's what I need.
no. That's not why I'm bringing this up. No. I'm bringing this is just it's very interesting. What they're coming up with these advancements in technology. I don't because we were talking about it ties into remember because you were doing the VR thing, the VR headset you were showing me.
Oh yeah, that was fun. The Oculus.
Yeah, and we were talking about all of the potential for all this technology that's coming down the pike now that could be a reality with like in our lifetime. And like when you watch a movie like Ex Machina, you don't really think that like something like that could be possible in your lifetime, and then like you start seeing things like this, and then you go like, oh wait a minute, maybe it is possible within our lifetime. Like all of a sudden, your perspective on the world like shifts when you see certain things.
it's gonna. I feel like it's gonna be so expensive when it first comes out. Slowly but surely, the prices will become readily available.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's what happens with all technology. But as it becomes more and more available and more commonplace, you have to really start thinking about the ramifications of something with that type of a level of predictive intelligence. You know, it's really crazy.
Stuff.
Yo.
You're talking like AI now, right? You're talking about like
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is. So I've gone complete sci-fi mode on your ass.
Just slowly, I was like, "Where are we going with this?" And I was like, "Here it is." You know, it's a slippery slope, man. It really is, because it can really benefit a lot of people if you can have in real life, um, tangible carekeepers and caregivers who are robotic, and they could really improve the quality of life for a lot of people. But at the same time, it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
I want to give too much power, to AI because, I don't know. One, it's going to be incredibly profitable for the companies that are doing this, and how many more big corporations do we need? And and it's just it's unknown, right? I think that's what's scary for me.
Yeah.
Is I wouldn't know what it would look like, and I would have difficulty handing over control, right? It's like self-driving cars. Self-driving cars are perfected. I bet our parents and even us are going to be a little bit resistant to it, especially at first. I'm sure some people won't even use it. But the younger generations, it's going to be what they know and what they're used to, so they'll embrace it a lot more easily.
Yeah.
So even if we see AI in our life, I bet we won't utilize it to the potential it has at that time because of that natural resistance. But to youth, it'll be second nature to them, like babies with iPads.
Yeah, I mean, look at look at us with computers. Like our parents. They don't really know a whole lot about computers, but we grew up with them, so we kind of understand them a little bit better. So,
Sometimes it hurts when I see my parents struggle with like their phone. So.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Like, this is what's... You've been working on this for an hour? Because it's going to take me 0.2 seconds to fix this.
Yep.
Phone won't go sideways. I've watched 4 YouTube videos. I don't know them like that. 1 second, and it's done. Are you happy or mad that I fixed it in a second? Major problem today for you has taken me a mere second.
Oh my god! And then they're like, "What'd you do? How'd you do that?" It takes you long because then like sometimes I want me to teach them how they did it, and it takes me longer to teach them how to do it than to just like do it for them.
Right. The worst is when someone's like, "Show me how to do it," and then you're like doing it. And by the 19th, like, you're like, You're like, "You're not even fucking listening."
Yeah, it's like I'm like re-explaining things like 3 times, even though like I've said it like very, very plain and simply already. Like it's like it's this thing right here. This thing I'm pointing at.
Turn it on. I click the power button. It's like, do you fucking hear yourself?
Did I say power button?
That's why. Like that's what I gotta tell you. That's where we're at.
Oh,
These are fingers, and you use them. They're attached to you, a being.
Oh man, Jesus. Yeah, what were we talking? Oh, we were talking. Yeah, so like but yeah, you're right. I mean, everybody, as time goes on, like, and then these types of things get incorporated into society because that's the thing. When you talk about slippery slope, yes, they have a very good potential for good, but also a very high potential. I shouldn't say good, a very high potential for bad, also.
I was feeling that way just moments ago. What are some examples of bad? Because I'm kind of struggling. Like, I want to root against AI, but outside of like them killing us,
I mean,
can't think of bad.
Because think about it, they could be posing like as humans, like the end. Like spoiler alert, like the end of.
Oh, say it gets that accurate. Okay.
Yeah, like that's like No, I'm telling you, watch Ex Machina. It is a insane movie.
I've never even heard of it, Steve. It sounds like you're speaking another language.
I'm telling you, it's a movie. Oscar Isaacs is in it. It's a great movie.
Oh, Oscar's in it?
Yeah. Oh, you know Oscar? You don't know Oscar.
Oscar Isaac? That's your selling point?
He was no. He was in the Star Wars reboots. He was what was he? Poe Dameron?
Oh, he's like the new pilot guy?
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Steve, I don't like those movies. I don't think they're
Me
good.
neither. Dylan, honestly, me neither.
Another reason why it's like Disney might buy WWE, it's like, they're ruining Star Wars. Like,
They're ruining almost everything they touch nowadays. It's like real crap fest over there. That's why what's his face had to come back. The CEO that left.
I don't know. It's a weird. They're almost like a cult. It's very odd the way they operate. They've been so successful for so long, and oh boy, Steve, you got your tinfoil hat ready? Is it nearby?
It's squarely on my head.
Is it in arm's reach? Because
It's got it.
That they operate on in Florida was purchased by the military, right, for pennies on the dollar at a discounted rate. Like, you don't think there was some sort of interest on the other end? Why would you, I guess military surplus things do sell at discounted rates, but it's a lot of land, right? And clearly the land wasn't completely useless because he built an empire on it, right? If it was swamp, shitty land that flooded often, okay, I could see why they would sell it all for so cheap, right? But clearly it was stable enough land for Orlando to exist and boom, right? So I feel like there had to be an interest there.
Is this Alex Jones now? Are we doing Alex Jones now? Where did the land come from?
I could do a southern drawl.
If you did, that'd be it. That would be it.
The water on Splash Mountain is turning the children gay. You go up the slide of man, you come down the slide of sissy.
They want to build a wall around Florida.
Disney's castle is a symbol of oppression.
Why is there Nazi imagery in Disney cartoons?
He's always wearing gloves. He's not leaving fingerprints behind. I don't know. That's not Alex Jones. It's slowly devolving. It's gotten worse each line, but it's...
No, but it's so crazy. Like, I've actually been talking to like a couple of people, not just you, about him and about how like over the years how he, and I know we had this conversation recently, he said some of the craziest shit, and now like so much of it is coming out and turning out to be true. Like, are you kidding me? Like, with like the gay frogs is a perfect example of that. Like, sounds absolutely ridiculous, right? And you told me about it, and like told me to watch that documentary, and I was like, that sounds completely batshit crazy ridiculous. And if Alex Jones is saying it, there's a good chance it's ridiculous. But then, sure enough, boom.
Yeah, and that documentary was phenomenal. The one on YouTube by oh Lord, I'd love to give him credit, but I can't remember his name. But he talked to scientists directly involved, and scientists that were paid by the companies to produce studies that showed that it didn't have harmful effects and weren't, turning frogs into hermaphrodites, right? Which is true. And it's just crazy. Like, of course the government's going to lie, especially when there's profit involved. And, at least, in my opinion, an attempt for manipulation, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's just... There's so much fuckery going on to, excuse my lack of a better word. And then like he talks about it, and then like he goes, "There's no way that's true. There's no way that's true." And it ends up being true. It ends up being true. But like the thing is his credibility is like always because it's him. Like his credibility is always shaky because it's coming from. It's almost like people like will feed him like.
That's some hard takes, like the Sandy Hook thing.
Yeah, no, I mean like people like
It's a
would.
terrible take.
Yeah, I mean like people feed. I think people will sometimes feed him like actually like true information just because like look at who it's coming from. Like if he.
Oh, that's true. I think the scariest part, sorry, I'm watching the game, about the frog scaping is that he's not the journalist who figured that out, right? That was known because of the research by that doctor and the documentary by OKI's Weird Stories on YouTube. So he said it too, Steve. He didn't like have a segment on it. It literally was like a 3 second clip where during a rant he was like the water and the chemical that's turning the frogs gay. Like he just briefly brushed by it. And
Yeah.
he's known for it. It's gay frogs, Alex Jones. It's just your first thought. So
It's just. It's so crazy.
they
It's.
label him, look, he's talking about this. Look how crazy this guy is. And it's like, well, he didn't discover that, one. So it's like a poor label attempt. And two, it's true. Like, it's not turning the frogs gay, but it is having it's having significant effects on sex organs. And
I think a better way to say it probably like the things he says are based in truth. How about that? Is that probably a better way to say it?
yeah,
Yeah, because he does like put his own. That you're all right. He does put his own spin on things. It's not like he's like a Nostradamus over here being like super Mr. Prophecy over here, but like he says a lot of ridiculous things. Like this is the point. It's like he says a lot of ridiculous things, and like there is truth like behind a lot of the shit that he says, and obviously he says a lot of ridiculous shit too. But I think like he he does know some things, but the fact that it's him, people don't care if it comes from him and the things get out because, especially now, he's lost all credibility. I mean, like they don't care what he says.
yeah, no, I mean, sprinkle a little truth in insane lies, because the insane lies are going to be the title of the channel, videos and podcasts. So those get the clicks, and then he sprinkles in a little truth. Is just, it's no wonder he's not credible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Well, he's right X% of the time, and I'm sure that percentage is not very high. There is bits and pieces of truth sprinkled throughout.
Yeah.
It's lies that's like, if you just didn't, sure, your show couldn't be 40 minutes, right? It'd probably be about like 10 to 15 minutes long, but at least you'd be a more reliable and respected, source. Unless, I don't know, it's a slippery slope. The tinfoil hat's falling off.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, he was playing at fire for so long because, like, he was the type of guy that, like, where everything was a conspiracy, right? I mean, he believed, like, or purported anyway, like, every conspiracy and every theory, no matter how wrong or right it was. Like, I remember, like, he would have people like that guy David Icke on. David Icke is the guy who thinks that like the royal family are like reptilians and like major people are all like the world has been infiltrated by reptilian aliens, like absolute bonkers like nonsense. Like he'll have that's the type of stuff that like he'll run also, but then like he'll also like say stuff like that's actually like wasn't he talking about Epstein in the beginning?
Who specifically? Who?
Alex Jones. Yeah.
Yeah, he had to jump on that for sure. Yeah.
Right, and of course because he was saying it, no one really like believed it, and it was a conspiracy theory for the longest time, and then all of this stuff came out, and now everybody accepts that stuff as fact now.
And the Jeffrey Epstein thing is just as clear as day. It'll never be more clear. That's incredibly fishy. Get out of here. When you're a high-profile client, or high risk, you have two guards watching you 24/7. There's no way, and with their sole jobs being to stop him from killing or harming himself, right? To make sure that he's like he has to testify and follow through, and just that's what it's all about. And then the camera footage is like, oh yeah, we lost it. Just what more do you want, right? They're spoon feeding you. Hey, we're lying to you. Like, just accept it. Do not deny it, right? It's unbelievable if you do. And it's tough what to believe because you see things like that, and then there's really no press. And what I mean, press in every sense of the word, the press isn't talking about it, and the people aren't being held responsible when they should be, right? Very obviously.
Yeah.
And you have bits of truth sprinkled by a madman in Texas ranting, and then he gets taken down and has an insane lawsuit where he's now, the guy's going to be broke. I mean, it's very clearly targeting him. It's just, it's all so weird and mischievous, and you know, even to begin to try to understand it is painful and it just hurts. I don't know what to do. I don't know the answer, and it's scary.
Yeah. I mean, it really is a lot. It's a lot to think about, and it's a little, unsettling when you think about it, right? I mean, it's a little uncomfortable to think about certain, realities and truths that could be possible about our world. It's a little bit. I think some things are a little bit uncomfortable for people to think about.
Right. I feel like we both, in terms of being political pawns and citizens, like, are we being manipulated? Are we being lied to and taken advantage of? I think it's a clear yes. But what's scary to think about is how much? How much is my life manipulated, right? How much is, and not even me on a personal level, but more so like the way the tax system is set up, right? How much is it designed for that goal in mind of long-term debt and payback? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, what is it really? How is it really? How are things stacked against me? Really, what's the score really? Right? I mean, do we? Because you're saying everybody hears one thing, but then you go out in the real world, because that's the thing, is that you go out in reality and then you observe things about your own reality that are different from. I'm not just talking about like conspiracy. I'm not. Listen, this is not going off the rails and like conspiracy. I'm talking about like just your own understanding of the world and what they say it is and it's supposed to be. When like they think that we're all a lot dumber than we really are, right? I mean, I'm not going hardcore tinfoil hat here. I want to make that very clear.
No, you're not. You're not at all. We're saying the same thing, and and you're making great points that add on to it. That's what's really frustrating is that as time goes on, they're not even trying to pull the wool in front of our eyes. It's just like, take it. Like, what? What do you mean? Like, the COVID thing was just a restriction paradise. It was really just a complete government takeover, a tryout. Like, let's try this out. Let's see how much we can get away with. Let's push them. Like, there was pushback, and I'm shocked there wasn't more pushback on it. They had a field day with it, and it was, yes, was it helpful in certain cases? Kind of. But also in other states where they had the lowest restrictions, Florida had the same death rate throughout COVID that New York did. And Florida's common age is significantly higher, right? And you couldn't have more opposite restrictions, crazy restrictions, no public places and gatherings, 6 feet apart. And Florida had none of that stuff. So for them to have the same death toll per average or per capita, whatever the statistic may be, with New York is just mind-boggling to me, right? It's like two different ways, two different approaches, two different states and climates, two different demographics. It's just why. It's like, so what works? It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, what could have been going on while everybody was locked up in their homes, basically, like what, I'm sure there was some kind of, they were doing they obviously they were trying out things and they were doing something, right? I mean, they're doing.
Scores have plummeted at an alarming rate for students.
What plummeted? What did you say plummeted?
Test scores and GPAs have plummeted for students.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. That's a whole. I didn't even think about that. I think that's a combination of a couple of things. I think, right. It's a combination of everyone's has to all of a sudden do Zoom lessons, So it's very easy to, not actually.
Me and you would have absolutely taken advantage of Zoom and FaceTime.
Dude, I did. I was still in school when it first happened.
I would have been playing Xbox without a doubt.
I did my last 2 semesters during COVID, during the beginning of COVID, and let me tell you, you can definitely see how there's a lot of room for students to not really take it seriously, and also because it's very easy to figure out how to cheat on Zoom if you really wanted to, and also, like you said, the motivation to pay attention is very low, and also it's like really you can do whatever you want because what is the teachers or the school or anybody actually going to do? You're already at home.
What are you gonna drive them at my house and come in my room? You couldn't if you wanted to because of COVID and 6 feet and risks and whatnot.
Yeah, it's like you gonna send me to detention. Like, what are you really gonna do? You're in your house, I'm in my house. There really is nothing you can do to me directly that's gonna change my behavior. So obviously the motivation I think for a lot of students just went completely away because there really was nothing legitimate holding them back from doing whatever the hell they wanted. Right?
absolutely, and I work from home remotely, and thankfully my job is tracked and very easily tracked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it's something like sales and it's commission based. So I have all the incentives I need to work and work hard, and that's working in my company's favor. But there says a lot about kids going to school and commuting. I think it prepares you for the real world. So you got to wake up early. You got to get dressed and look presentable. You have to leave on time. You have to make sure that you have all your things packed and with you. I think that is really important, a really important aspect of school that these kids aren't going to get or going to get at a weird increments on, off, back home, go to
Yeah.
school. That was always very important in my eyes as a kid. Structure and waking up, being responsible, making sure you got, oh my God, what a lisp, making sure you got your shit together. Excuse me.
No, you're good. I always looked at it like this. I always looked at it, college prepares you for your job and your career, but like high school and like primary, secondary school, like high school especially, that prepares you for life. Like that's the whole normal like school structure, but pre any type of pre university, like that stuff. Like your public, what you would consider public education years, so to speak. That's it's more for it's life skills. A lot of it is life skills, learning, like you were saying, work ethic, and how, because high school is a it's like a metaphor for the real world, and you figure out how to act and interact with different type of social structures and different types of people, and it's a similar mix to what you'd find in the real world. So I think in a lot of ways, for the rest of your life, I think even high school is even more valuable than college as far as just for the rest of your life, because there's so much more important stuff there.
Definitely did school wrong as a kid, and that's probably coming into the equation as well. Looking back from a mind that's a much older now. In the moment, I really didn't take school very serious at all, and it's obviously a big regret. But there's nothing I can do. I'm not going to really dwell on it too much. But it's so valuable for the shaping, of the future. It really is. And that being said, there's a lot of room for encouragement, and there's a lot of room. The word's escaping me right now, but you could convince them and shape them and mold their mind to feel and think a certain way, and that's both very valuable and dangerous at the same time,
Yeah.
especially when it's done digitally.
Yeah.
No play. It's the first time it's happened. There's no playbook. This hasn't happened. Oh, let's look back. at the Spanish flu. It's like, yeah, they didn't have Zoom in the 1900s.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look. First of all, like, don't feel bad about your academic career because you were just growing up and you were learning too. And look, you still learn a lot from it, right? Obviously, you still learn from it, so it wasn't a complete waste of an experience.
Yeah.
So don't feel badly about that. And also, just for the Zoom thing, like you got to give a lot of credit to these teachers that stayed around and continued to teach on Zoom during the pandemic because like we were talking about, it was really tough and they didn't really all of a sudden they really didn't have a lot of real authority and it became very you had to learn a completely new way to teach basically overnight. And a lot like you were saying, there is no textbook and there's no rule book to how to deal with these things, and so they had their work cut out from them. It was very much an uphill battle for the teachers that stayed around because look, a lot of them, I'm sure you heard these stories too, a lot of them left.
Yeah, no, they did, which opened up a lot of new jobs for younger people and maybe less qualified people. Not saying that they're not qualified, but
And some
it's weird
places
when
they
you
were
start
struggling to fill. There
to be a
was
teacher. Yeah, exactly. It's a filling spots, and it's like, all right, you're a teacher, and Zoom class starts at this time. Like, it's like a very like you didn't learn about that in college at all. Did you take any college courses about teaching on Zoom? Like, probably not. So, but also at the same time, you're absolutely right. Tip of the cap to teachers who had to adapt on the fly too, just like the kids.
yeah.
Maybe more. They had to change the way that they taught and got across. And I'm sure teachers, to an extent, are measured on how their kids' test scores and how they perform. Um, so yeah, good on them. And that must have been really difficult for them, and certainly deserves to be paid more.
I mean, you're talking to one of the most pro education, pro teacher people that I know. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that. I mean, especially when you take into account all the unpaid hours that they work, before not on the clock, all the extra work that they do. Like they have to do homework. Like most jobs, this is one of the problems I have with school is that they make homework mandatory, but for most jobs, homework's not going to be mandatory. You're not going to have to bring your work home with you at most jobs, right? I mean, you don't bring your work actually home with you like after hours, right? I mean,
I like send emails and make schedules and stuff, but not to that extent that
yeah,
teachers do
yeah,
not.
no, absolutely not. And that's the thing is like, why are we teaching that type of a work ethic when it's not going to be required of everybody? Like teachers have to do it because they have to do it, and if they care about the job anyway, they kind of have to put in those extra hours, and they should definitely be paid more just for that reason alone.
I
But
mean, teachers a sweet gig if you work off and you can coach like a team. You can, they deserve to get paid more. But if they're getting paid more, then you have all those other benefits. That'd be a phenomenal job. And when you have phenomenal jobs with great compensation, you're going to bring in better candidates,
yeah,
and they're going to get best people for the job because they're wanting to work there, not needing to fill in a spot. And I think that says a lot about the American education system. It,
there's
more of an incentive to bring on more qualified and intelligent candidates who are better suited for the job, and the pay is higher.
yeah, no, you're right. Dylan, like we could do like I could do hours on the problems I've seen with the education system. Like, why is there? Why do we pay teachers on a tenure system when no one else does that in like the Western world anymore? Like, shouldn't they be paid by performance? Based on performance, like everybody else is in the entire like working world. Like,
Right.
why is the it just creates an opportunity for people who just don't give a crap to just feed off the system.
Yeah, when teachers get tenure, it's just like it's good on them. Like I want that so bad. I can.
Yeah,
It,
like that. Why
I,
why should a good teacher that's only been working 2 years get paid less than a horrible teacher that's been working 10 years? Like that's ridiculous.
yeah, well said. Really, really good.
It's so much. Those people get such a raw deal, and they're some of the best, most excellent people that you could ever hope to meet, and they just get so overlooked, and they just get so screwed over in our society, and it's not right because they're so freaking important, you know.
It's a scary place, man.
It really is.
But I'm hopeful. We're hopeful, man.
You have to find reasons to continue to be hopeful in a world like this, in a world like the one that we live in, because it's so crazy, and there's so many reasons to get down and to feel not hopeful. Don't get down, y'all.
You knew it was coming. And not to completely pivot here, but it's relevant for me and you.
Blood
You
orgy?
tried pulled pork together like 3 times, right?
We almost tried pulled pork together like 3 times.
I'm making it right now, dude. I've been at a stall for hours. I put it in at 9 a.m. It's fucking 4:24, and it's only at 151 degrees. Now, for anyone listening to this, if you are at this point still, thank you. You can take your tinfoil hat off at this time.
Yes.
And fasten your seatbelt.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you put it in at around 32 to 40 degrees, the pork butt, and you want to cook it until it reaches 202 to 203 degrees. At which point you want to wrap it and let it sit at room temperature, kind of like resting a steak. The difference is it's a big cut of meat with a bone in it, so you want to rest it for hours. So this is going to be like a 12-hour smoke, and then I'm going to have to let it rest for 2 hours. So this is wild. I mean, Steve, how long did we cook that other pork shoulder when you were at my parents' with me?
Like, you were already cooking it when I got there, and I think I got there at like 1. And you were still cooking it when I left. The sun was down. It was like 7 or 8.
Yeah. You're probably like 8.
So that's 8 hours, and you were cooking before I got there and after I got there. So it was way more than 8 hours.
It's well worth it.
Well, I wouldn't know. I never got to taste the meat, so.
Yeah, dude, when you come down, buddy, we'll definitely do a lot of podcasts here. Maybe we'll film 1 or 2.
Yeah.
We're going to have a blast. We'll make some barbecue together, bro. You'll be here, so I'll wake you up if I have to give you some barbecue.
Oh hell yeah! Let's do it, dude. I'm so down. I told you when I'm thinking about coming down. So we're working on that right now.
Yeah, when are you thinking? End of February, you said?
Oh, I don't have an exact date yet. Probably they said spring, so I'm gonna keep you updated on it. I'm gonna keep you updated when I get the exact date.
Come down too.
Yeah.
You should come down and then go see Mike Larkin after.
I could do that. I could make it a twofer. It's a twofer, a terrible twofer.
Oh my god! What is that from?
Or what is it? What is it? The Poltergeist episode of American Dad.
Oh, I love that episode. That's a good episode.
It is a good episode.
Didn't similar episode too?
Yeah, they did. Peter Geist. Peter Geist.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same writer, so it's not like a rip off if it's the same writing. You know what I mean?
But like they do it a little bit differently though in each one, because each show is a little bit different. So like,
American Dad's more like raunchy.
American Dad is a lot more raunchy. They're a lot less. No, actually, they're more cavalier about it than Family Guy is. I think with the raunchiness. Yeah, yeah, and there's no cutout. Yeah, I was saying it's more character driven, and it's just written. It's written a lot more intelligently, I think, than Family Guy is not a very smartly written show. I'm not saying it's dumb, but it tends to be lazily written, and I think that most people will concede that at this point. But it's also just it's just not the same. It's a lot less. You don't have to think about as much for Family. The Family Guy humor is like spoon fed to you, right?
Yeah. Recently, I find in the newer seasons, they literally explain the joke to you at times.
Yeah.
Like people are like, it's funny because it's from a movie. And it's like, yes, I know. Like
But it's like you have to get the joke.
It,
If you've seen the movie, you won't get the joke if you haven't seen it. So we're gonna explain the entire thing first before you even like get it, so you can get it and you can laugh at it. But it's like if you had to like explain it to me, then like it's not that funny if you have to explain the joke, as you
no.
you know, yeah.
Oh, buddy. Listen, I think we got to say our goodbyes here and plug whatever we need to plug because my phone is gonna die.
Oh wow! You know what? We had a good. That was pretty good.
I'm not gonna
Um,
lie, glad, dude.
I had a blast too. Thank you for coming on and doing this. I don't know. My Instagram, Steve at Steve Nicks. Is it Stevie Nicks? And then Twitter, Facebook. You got the pages, the show pages, and yeah, and we'll link. I'll have Mike Larkin link the social media info in the description. So yeah. So thanks everybody for listening. This was a surprise. Mike Larkin's gonna be very surprised when he finds out about this. So thanks everyone for coming on. Thank you, Dylan, for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for
This is
having me.
this is a lot of fun. We definitely should do this again soon. And yeah, until next time, be good, be safe, take care of yourself, and blah 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 blah.
You too, my friend. Down to the left. Wow.
All right,
Love you,
peace.
buddy.
All right.